All right, welcome to your second video of the Cloud Training 101 with ECS Imaging, your world-class solution provider. So in the first video, we just gave you a quick overview of what the dashboard is and then what you can find on your dashboard. So it gives you a quick reference guide to pretty much anything you can do in your Laserfiche Cloud. So now we're going to hit that Rubik's Cube and go right into the repository, and now we're going to kind of walk you through what to expect in your repository. So you'll see something very similar once we open this. It's very intuitive too. If you've ever been in a Windows environment and you have a share file, it's pretty much set up that way so that it feels familiar and it's easy for you to access documents. So I'll begin on the left-hand side and work my way to the right. That way you can get an understanding of what's capable in each section of your repository. So on this left-hand side pane, you see that I've got the cursor over here on the start. This is where you can store folders, documents, anything that pretty much you need to reference later or you work with quite often. Then underneath that is your shared files. So this is where you have that capability of tracking your direct share files that you're sending out. So you'll see here we've got some statuses. We'll talk about direct share when we get into the importing, exporting, and being able to kind of send out files. So in that video, we'll go over more of the direct share. But this is where you'll find some of the information and how you can, of course, track those documents that you're sending out in an email. And what's nice about direct share also is you can share outside of your organization and they don't need a license to view the file. Great benefit. So then underneath that are your recent documents. So these are any of the documents that you've been working with in the repository. Records management. If you have this as a module, or if you have the business tier of the cloud, this is where you'll be able to track your records retention schedules. So anything that you've created, this is where you'll be able to see at a glance what documents are set to be cut off, set for destruction. And you can kind of see some of that right here. But we won't get into this too much. Now, this is where the main root folder is of the repository. So whatever you want to name it, if it's a city, if it's your organization, this will be your root folder. And so you can click on the arrow will collapse. It'll also expand. And then of course you can drill down into the area that you'd like to get to. And so you'll see here a couple of those starred documents are in this folder. And of course, that's leading me over into the column. We'll get kind of into this a little bit more, but just to kind of wrap up over here, what you see on the folder side, the last thing that you'll see is your recycle bin. So just keep in mind with your recycle bin, you do want to activate it because anything that's put in there will stay on hold until an administrator removes it. So just make sure you activate your recycle bin so that you don't lose documents and you'll be able to track anything that's happening in your repository. So now I'm going to move over into the center area of the repository, and this is what we call the column view. And so of course it starts with the name. You can click on this icon here. It looks like kind of like a bar table a little bit. And then of course you can search by containing of words or whatever it is that you need to do to sort it. In order to remove this box, all you do is click that icon again and it'll disappear. What's nice about the columns is that you can sort them any way that you want. So if you want to move them around, you can expand them, you can minimize them. And in this instance here, because it's dates, you'll see that it adjusts the information that you can customize to. What's also nice about the columns is that you have the ability to pick the columns that you see. You can, of course, sort them, but when you pick the columns, it gives you a list of predefined columns that you can work with. And what's nice too is when you create fields, those fields can also be columns that you can use later. So say, for example, you want to put the created date or the extension, all you have to do is simply drag and drop, and it'll add it to your columns. You can reset, you can remove anything that's really going to sort it the way that you want to see the documents. Now, say you set something up and you are like, this is what I want to see every time I log in. You can save the profile. You can name it. You can set it to yourself, or you can apply it to a group. So, for example, if you're working in accounting and the PO information is important, the total on the invoice is important, and you just want to save that column order, then you can do that and then put it to your group. And so group rights is more of an admin training. So if you'd like to see that, then of course reach out to us and we'll provide that to you as well. So I'm going to click cancel. We'll just keep it the same. One of the other things that you can do in the column is you can change it from the list view to icon view. This is really nice if you're a visual learner, because then you can view or see the documents that you're trying to work with. And then of course, by clicking on it, you select it. And so that's pretty much what you can do within the columns. And now we're going to come over here to the details pane. What's nice in here is you have tabs located above that are details, fields, preview, records, web link, and then of course a more tab. The reason why web link is in here is because the cloud is web-based, you can pretty much put a web-based application or anything like that right here. We have our web link as an example, just so that you can kind of see, okay, well, I can put a website here and we can work with a website within here. So I'm going to explain the tabs that you'll see pretty frequently, which are these ones here. And then I'll also lightly hit on the records one. So starting with the details, you'll see that this one has a template. So if you've created templates, this is where you'll see what template the document has. If the document has any tags, if there are links, if you want to start version tracking. It also shows when the video was modified, who created it, the folder path, any holds if there is any, and you can also add a location. So if you're looking to do geolocation of the documents, you can of course enter an address there, and now it assigns an address to that document. And when you hit the show advanced, which I just did, it gives you further information on the details of the document. So again, it'll give you a full detail of the folder path, and then it gives you your entry ID, and it'll also show any rights that you have pertaining to the document. So if you're curious if you can edit or do anything to the document, this will show what your actual abilities or rights are for that document. So now I'm going to click on the fields. And in the fields, this is where you'll find that template information that we discussed on the details. So any field that you've created underneath that template, this is where you can view that information. All of these fields are searchable. So in the search video, we'll definitely go over that to show you how you can search these fields. But this is where you can find that information. You can even add or remove fields from this tab, if you, of course, have that right to be able to do that. And then after the fields, we have the preview of the document. So just keep in mind that when you are previewing, it is by the document. So if you select more than one document and you see that little checkbox, you won't necessarily get a view of the document. So it is by document. This preview works in that way. And what's nice too is you can change the view. So right here, you can kind of scroll by page. You can also view the thumbnails if you wanted to kind of view it that way. What's nice about these columns is you can also expand them. You can minimize them if you need to. So that way you can kind of work side by side and view the documents as you're working with them. You can also zoom in and zoom out. when you have that ability to zoom in and zoom out, it allows you to kind of view the document even further. This little icon here will give you the ability to search words on this specific document. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and select the word beach. And what it'll do is it'll search the document and it'll give you your context hits up here. And so you'll see that this document we selected has 7. When you click the up and the next and the previous, it'll show you on the page which word and where it's found on the page. So this is really nice. This is also a feature that you can get once we get into the document viewer. So then after you have the preview button, we're looking at the records. This is where you'll find the life cycle if you again have that records management piece with your cloud repository. So it'll give you the cutoff dates, it gives you your retention schedule, and you can even click edit if you needed to edit it. Within the details pane, you also have the ability to star and unstar documents if you'd like to. You can also do that within the columns when you have a document selected. And so here you can remove the star, you can copy or remove a document, rename the document by right-clicking also. You can even delete the document. So this is how you can kind of go through and create if you needed to, just by right-clicking within the column. But that's just one of the abilities that you're able to do. So I'm going to stretch this back out so we can view it. And I'm going to click this arrow here so we can see the list of the documents. We're going to finish out this training just by talking about this area here and also the searching. So in the next video, we're going to do more of the detail of how you can search, but I want to give you more of just an overview here. And in a following video, we'll also look at importing, exporting, and doing the direct share. So for now, we'll just kind of briefly go over this area. So up here is what we call the breadcrumbs. So here's where you can select a folder path, copy and paste it, share it, email, Teams chat, and then they can go ahead and enter it in here, and it'll route you right to that folder or to that document that you're working on. On this side here, you'll see the refresh button. If you're uploading anything into the repository or working with workflow and you see a little green dot, that usually means that there's something new in the system, and you can go ahead and click that refresh and then it'll be visible. So if you don't see it right away, just know that if there's a green button, that means there's new content that's being added. This here is what you can click to add a new folder. You can also download any of the documents out and then email them if you want to do it that way. This is where you can click to import your documents. You can also scan into the system, and it gives you a couple of options here. You've got your standard, basic, and web scanning. We do recommend doing the standard, so when you're ready to kind of import and scan, that'll be what you can use. Of course, you can select a document and rename from here, and this is where it gives you that ability to do direct share. And you see there are more actions that you can do. You can generate a report. You can do adding a hold to a document here, record actions, so download the file plan, projected abilities, show security, or any type of audit report. So those are more actions here. Above that is where you can start searching keywords, look for your saved searches, search filters, and then of course the standard icon for learning, your Rubik's Cube, and then any information that you need about your account is up here. So your options, any feedback, and then also your shortcuts. So if you're somebody who likes to work with your keyboard, this is where you can locate your shortcuts. So that kind of completes this section of an overview of the repository. The next video that we'll get into is going to cover searching. And following that, of course, we'll get into the detail of the document.